My mother-in-law called me useless in the middle of a family dinner, and she didn't whisper it. She stood up, threw the house bill on the table, and humiliated me in front of everyone like I was nothing but a burden. My husband stayed silent, didn't defend me once, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't a wife in their eyes. I was an inconvenience. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I quietly pulled out my phone and recorded every word. I pulled into Gloria Bennett's driveway with my hands still smelling faintly like sanitizer and machine oil from the hospital. Sundays were supposed to be simple. A meal, a few polite laughs, Malik saying, "Yes, ma'am," when he didn't feel like it. Then we'd drive back to our place and the week would start again. Malik sat in the passenger seat, hoodie up, earbuds out for once. He watched the house like he was bracing for a test. "You good?" I asked. He shrugged. "Yeah." That was his way of saying no. Inside, Gloria had the table set like she was hosting a magazine shoot. Danielle was already there, moving between the kitchen and the dining room, wearing that tight smile she used when she wanted everything to look normal. Terrence leaned against the counter with a beer, acting like he owned the place. He didn't even nod at me. Gloria came out wiping her hands on a towel. "Marcus, about time." Not hello, not how was your week, just a reminder that I was always late in her eyes. Even when I wasn't. I kept my voice steady. "Evening, Ms. Bennett." She never told me to call her Gloria. Some women want warmth. She wanted distance, authority. We ate. Gloria talked the whole time, mostly about what other people's sons-in-law were doing. Promotions, new cars, home renovations. Her friend's daughter didn't have to lift a finger because her husband was a real provider. Danielle laughed at the right moments. Malik pushed food around his plate. I tried to keep things light. Malik's math grade went up. Gloria didn't look at him. That's nice." Then she turned her attention right back to Danielle. "And how's my baby doing? Still carrying everything on her back?" Danielle sighed like she was exhausted, even though she worked part-time and spent most afternoons scrolling through her phone. I didn't call her out. I didn't correct the story. I told myself it wasn't worth it. Gloria set her fork down slow, like she was about to say grace. "You know what I don't understand?" she said. "How a man can live in this family and still act like he's a guest." Terrence snorted. My jaw tightened. I kept chewing. Gloria reached under her placemat and slid a folded piece of paper across the table. It landed right in front of me. A bill, contractor letterhead, a total with 3 commas. "The living room ceiling, the plumbing, that window in the back that's been leaking for months," she said. I had to handle it because nobody else was stepping up. I unfolded it. My name wasn't on it. Neither was my address. It was her house. "Ms. Bennett," she lifted her hand. "Don't start. Don't explain." Danielle stared at her plate. Not at me. Not at Malik. Gloria leaned forward. "You are useless," she said, loud and clean, like she'd been waiting to say it. "And I'm tired of watching my daughter struggle while you sit there acting proud." The word hit the table harder than the bill did. Malik froze. His fork hovered in the air, then dropped back onto his plate with a small clink. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at them. He just stared down like he was trying to disappear. Something in my chest tightened so fast it felt like a muscle cramp. Terrence shook his head like I was embarrassing him. "Man, just pay it," he said. "That's what husbands do." Gloria tapped the paper. A real man would have offered without being asked. I could have said a lot. I could have reminded her who paid for Danielle's car when it broke down, who covered Malik's braces, who worked double shifts when the hospital lost staff. I could have asked why Terrence, a grown man, still borrowed money from her every month. Instead, I folded the bill back up. Then I stood and started stacking plates. Slow, careful, like my hands belonged to someone else. Danielle finally looked at me, but it wasn't concern, it was warning. "Marcus, don't make this a thing," she whispered. Malik pushed his chair back slightly, just enough to show he wanted out. I carried the dishes to the sink, ran water, and let it cover the silence. My throat felt hot. My face stayed blank. Behind me, Gloria kept talking, like she hadn't just cut something open at the table. "Look at him," she said. "Always quiet. That's how he avoids responsibility." I shut the faucet off, wiped my hands, turned around. Malik met my eyes for half a second, then looked away again. "Come on," I said to him. "No drama, no speech." He stood up fast, like he'd been waiting for permission, and grabbed his coat while Gloria's voice followed us down the hall, still sharp, still certain, still calling me something I wasn't, as I reached for the front door handle and pulled it open into the cold. Malik didn't speak on the drive home. He stared out the window like he was counting streetlights. I kept both hands on the wheel and let the silence sit between us, heavy but controlled. A couple times I glanced over, hoping he'd say something first. Nothing. When we got home, he headed straight to his room. No attitude, no slam of the door, just quiet. That was worse. Danielle stayed behind at her mother's place. I didn't ask her to come back with us. I didn't call her either. I slept maybe 3 hours, woke up before my alarm, went through my routine on autopilot, shower, shave, coffee that tasted like burnt patience. Malik came out for a bowl of cereal, eyes half open. "You okay for school?" I asked. He nodded once. Yeah, that was all I got. At the hospital, the morning hit me like it always did. Radio squawking, a nurse asking about a broken door on the 3rd floor. One of my guys texting that a boiler valve was acting up. I moved through it like I was supposed to, checking work orders, signing off on a repair request, answering questions with the same steady voice I used every day. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. Danielle. Her message was short, like she was doing me a favor. "Mama just worries about the family. Don't take it personal." I stared at it for a few seconds longer than I should have. Not a single word about Malik hearing it. Not even a, "that went too far." Just a neat little excuse, wrapped and handed to me like I was supposed to accept it. I locked the screen and walked into the mechanical room. The hum of equipment filled the space. I stood there, breathing slowly, letting the noise drown out the part of me that wanted to throw my phone across the floor. I didn't. I never did. Around mid-morning, I crossed paths with Marcus Deshawn from security. We'd known each other years. He had that look people get when they're trying to decide whether to say something or pretend they didn't hear it. He leaned in like he was sharing a joke. "You good, man?" "Yeah, why?" He hesitated, then shrugged. "Heard some talk. One of the nurses said your wife's people been telling folks you getting taken care of. Like, you know, you got it made." The words hit clean. No insult in his tone, just the awkward delivery of something ugly. I felt my stomach drop. Not because I cared what strangers thought, but because I knew exactly where that story came from. Gloria didn't just want to put me in my place at her table. She wanted to hand that version of me to anyone who would listen. "Appreciate you," I said, keeping my face neutral. He nodded, reading my expression like he'd seen it before. People run their mouths. Just watch it. I walked away before he could add anything else. My shoes squeaked against the hallway floor. Every step felt normal, and that scared me. Like I could absorb anything and keep moving. Like I'd trained myself to take hits and call it stability. By lunch, I couldn't sit still. Not with Malik's face in my head. Not with that message from Danielle sitting there like a small, quiet betrayal. On my way home, I took an exit I didn't usually take and drove north toward Evanston. I told myself I was just being cautious, just asking questions, nothing dramatic. The credit union was quiet inside, a couple people waiting, a woman with a stroller, someone in work boots filling out a form. At the counter, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice waved me over. Her name tag read, Nadia Alvarez. "How can I help you?" she asked. I slid my ID across and kept my voice low. I need to know how personal loans work when someone's name gets involved without them knowing. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, not surprised, more like familiar. "Are you seeing something on your credit report?" I hesitated, then pulled out the folded papers I'd brought. Basic statements, an old letter, things I wasn't even sure mattered. Nadia took them, scanned quickly, then typed something into her computer. Her face didn't change much, but her fingers slowed. "Mr. Reed," she said, quiet enough that the woman with the stroller couldn't hear. "There was an inquiry on your profile a few weeks ago, not one you initiated." I felt my throat tighten. "What kind of inquiry?" She looked up at me again, steady, the kind that usually comes before a loan application. "Can you print that inquiry for me?" I asked Nadia. She nodded and slid a form across the counter. "Fill this out. It'll show the date, the lender, and the contact information used. That's all we can give without opening a formal dispute." I signed my name carefully, like the act itself mattered more now. Nadia disappeared into the back for a minute, then returned with a single sheet. She tapped one line with her fingernail. "This was submitted with an email address," she said. "Not yours." I took the paper and stared at the email listed. It wasn't mine. It wasn't even close. It was Danielle's old one. The one she used back when we first started dating. The one she said she stopped checking years ago. My mouth went dry. "Thank you," I managed. Nadia didn't look away. "If you didn't authorize it, don't ignore it. People think inquiries are harmless. They're not." I folded the paper twice and put it in my jacket pocket. She watched me do it, then added one more thing, quieter. "You'd be surprised how often it's family." I nodded once and walked out. Back home, Malik was in his room with his door half open. I could hear his game, the same sounds looping like they always did. Normal noise in a house that didn't feel normal anymore. Danielle was on the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling. She looked up when I walked in and smiled like the night before never happened. "Hey," she said. "You want leftovers? Mama sent some." I hung my coat up. "No." Her smile tightened. "What's wrong now?" I didn't answer. I went to the kitchen table, pulled my laptop out and opened it. Danielle followed me, slow, like she was approaching an animal she didn't trust. "Marcus, don't do this," she said. "Do what?" "Go digging for problems." I typed in my email and started searching. Loan, approval, application. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Just something that made this paper in my pocket make sense. A subject line popped up that I almost missed. "Your personal loan confirmation." My fingers paused above the keyboard. The email was addressed to Danielle's old account, not mine, but it had my name in the body, my full name, my social masked except for the last 4. The tone was cheerful, like it was congratulating me on something I never asked for. I clicked it open. Danielle leaned over my shoulder. "Why are you in my email?" she snapped. "This isn't your email," I said, keeping my voice even. "It's about me." She rolled her eyes. "It's probably spam." It wasn't spam. It had a reference number, a phone contact, a link to review documents. I stared at the date. 2 weeks ago. A Tuesday afternoon, right around the time I'd been dealing with an emergency generator failure at the hospital. I remembered that day because I hadn't eaten until almost midnight. I looked at Danielle. "Did you apply for something in my name?" Her eyes widened like she was offended I'd even ask. "Are you serious?" "Yes." She crossed her arms. "No." "Why would I do that?" I didn't move, didn't raise my voice, just waited. She huffed. "You always make everything a big deal." Then she walked to the front door and grabbed the mail off the small table by the entryway. I watched her do it, and that's when I noticed something. The mail was already opened, not all of it, just the pieces that looked official. Danielle saw me looking. "I sorted," she said quickly, "so you don't get stressed." "I'm not a child," I said. "You act like one sometimes," she shot back. She tossed a stack on the counter, then leaned in closer, voice lowering. "Look, if you're worried about bills, just give me your bank login. I'll handle it. I always do." That sentence sat in the air between us. Not an offer, a demand dressed up as help. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "No," I said. Her face changed, fast. "What do you mean no?" "I mean no." She stared at me like I'd betrayed her. "So you don't trust your wife?" I didn't argue with that. I closed my laptop, took it into the bedroom, and changed every password I had. Banking, email, utilities. I set up 2-factor authentication. I made sure every alert would come straight to my phone. Danielle stood in the doorway, watching. "You're being dramatic," she said. I ignored it. Later that night, after Malik went to sleep, my phone rang. Gloria. I let it ring twice before answering. "Yes, ma'am." Her voice came through sharp, already loaded. "Danielle said you came home acting strange, like you're planning something." I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. "I'm planning to understand what's happening," I said. Gloria scoffed. "What's happening is you're failing your duties. A man doesn't hide behind passwords. A man steps up. You're going to pay that bill, and you're going to do it before my daughter has to beg you." I reached over to the nightstand, slid my phone onto it face down, and tapped the screen to start recording as her voice kept rolling through the room. Gloria called the next afternoon like she ran the calendar in our house. "We're meeting tonight," she said. 6 o'clock. Everyone needs to be there. I didn't ask who everyone was. The tone told me it wasn't optional. Danielle stood nearby, pretending to wipe the counter while she listened. She didn't look at me, not once. I showed up anyway, not because I wanted to, because Malik was watching how I handled things now. Oak Park felt the same as always. Gloria's porch light on, the curtains pulled tight. Terrence's car parked crooked in the driveway like he'd arrived angry. Inside, the living room was crowded. Gloria's sisters, Aunt Renee and Aunt Patrice, sat side by side on the couch, dressed like they were headed to church. Terrence stood at the coffee table with a folder. Danielle hovered near the hallway, arms folded, jaw tense. Gloria waved me in like I was late to my own hearing. "Sit," she said. I stayed standing. "Where's Malik?" I asked. "In the back," Danielle said quickly. "He's fine." Terrence cleared his throat, already smiling like he'd rehearsed the moment. "Marcus, this doesn't have to be a whole thing," he said. "We're just handling business." He pulled a single sheet out of the folder and set it on the coffee table. A fresh page, typed, neat. My name printed at the top like I'd volunteered for it. "It's a repayment agreement," he said. "Simple. Just says you'll take responsibility for the renovation loan." My eyes stayed on the paper, not because I wanted to read it, because I wanted to see how far they'd gone without me. "What renovation loan?" I asked. Gloria made a sound of irritation. "The one you should have paid in the first place," she snapped. Terrence slid a pen toward me. "Look, this isn't about blame. It's about getting ahead of it. If you sign, we can move forward." Aunt Renee nodded like she was watching a man refuse to do the right thing. "That's your wife," she said. "You don't let your wife's family suffer." Aunt Patrice added, softer but sharper, "A man's word means something. Put it on paper. That's all." Danielle finally spoke, voice tight. "Just sign it, Marcus. Why are you making it harder than it needs to be?" I looked at her, waiting for something, anything, that sounded like she cared what this was doing to me. All I saw was impatience, like I was a stubborn employee refusing a shift. I took the paper, skimmed the first few lines, then stopped. The loan amount matched the bill Gloria slid across the table. The name on the lender line wasn't one I recognized, neither was the address. Then I saw the line that mattered. Borrower, Marcus Reed. I set the paper back down. "Who submitted the loan application?" I asked. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just a question. The room went silent in a way that told me I'd hit the real nerve. Terrence's mouth opened, then closed. Gloria blinked once, slow, like she was deciding how to punish me for asking. "Listen to him," she said, turning to her sisters. "Always acting like he's too good, too smart." "I'm not acting," I said. "I'm asking." Danielle shifted her weight, eyes darting. Terrence leaned forward. "Man, you're really going to sit here and accuse us?" "I didn't accuse anybody," I said. "I asked who submitted it." Gloria's voice rose. "You're selfish," she snapped. "You want to pick apart everything instead of doing what's right. You always do this. You always—" The hallway door creaked. Malik stepped into the living room, rubbing one eye, hair sticking up. He stopped when he saw all of us, his face tightening like he'd walked into the wrong room. Gloria didn't pause. She pointed at me like I was proof of something. "See, this is your problem," she said, loud enough for him to hear. "His daddy is always like this." Malik's eyes flicked toward me. Just one quick glance. Then he looked down, like he couldn't stand to see it. Terrence pushed the pen closer. "Sign it, Marcus. Let's end this." I didn't touch the pen. I reached into my pocket instead, pulled out my phone, and checked the time, watching the seconds move like I had somewhere else to be. We got home a little after 8. Malik went straight to the bathroom, then his room. I heard his drawer open and close, the soft thud of his backpack hitting the floor. No music this time, no TV. Danielle came in behind us, keys loud in her hand. "You embarrassed me," she said. I took my jacket off and hung it up. "I didn't raise my voice." "You didn't have to," she shot back. "You sat there like you were above everybody." I walked past her without answering. Arguing with Danielle was like punching smoke. Every point turned into an accusation. Every question became proof I was cold. That word had followed me for years, even before her. Malik's door stayed closed. I stood outside it for a second, listening, then knocked once. "You need anything?" "No," he said, barely audible. I left him alone. That was the only gift I could offer him tonight. Space. Danielle kept talking from the living room, voice rising and falling, switching between anger and tears like she was flipping channels. Mama just wants stability. Terrence didn't mean nothing by it. You're acting paranoid. I went to the bedroom, grabbed my keys, and walked back out. She followed me, eyes wet. Where are you going now? I'm taking a drive. So you can brood? Like always? I didn't respond. I just stepped outside. The air felt sharp enough to clear my head. Lake Michigan wasn't far. I drove without music, without a destination, until I ended up in a parking lot near the water. A few cars sat scattered, people inside them doing the same thing I was doing, hiding in plain sight because home didn't feel like home. I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and stared straight ahead. My phone felt heavier than it should have. I called Nadia. She answered on the third ring, and her voice sounded tired but steady. Nadia Alvarez. It's Marcus Reed, I said, from earlier. Yes, I remember. I swallowed. That inquiry, if someone used an old email, what does that mean? She didn't jump to comfort. She didn't sugarcoat it. It means someone was testing the door, she said, seeing if it would open. And if it did? Then the next step is the application, signature, funds. I stared out at the dark water, my jaw clenched without me meaning to. What if the signature isn't mine? Her voice dropped lower. Then it's fraud. Forged signatures are fraud, and if you stay quiet, you become the person responsible. I let that sit. Fraud. A clean word for something that could wreck your life and still look like paperwork. I thanked her, ended the call, and sat there longer than I should have. The quiet gave me space to replay the last 3 years with Danielle. Not like memories, but like evidence. Her hands reaching for my mail, her voice saying, "Just sign here, it's nothing." The way she'd place documents in front of me when I was tired, when I'd just come off a double shift, when Malik needed help with homework and I didn't have the patience to read fine print. It's just for the HOA. It's just for insurance. It's just a form. I'd sign because I wanted peace, because I wanted her to feel secure, because after my first marriage, I promised myself I wouldn't be the man who fought over every detail. But peace bought with blindness isn't peace. It's surrender. My phone buzzed again. A text from Terrence. Last chance. Sign that agreement or I'm telling everyone what you've been doing to Danielle. Hoax don't take kindly to men who treat women like that. I read it twice, then a third time, watching the words shift from threat to strategy. He wasn't just pushing me to pay. He was setting the story. If I refused, I became the villain. If I fought back, I became abusive. If I stayed quiet, I became the wallet again. I saved the message, took a screenshot, then forwarded it to an email address I created that afternoon, one Danielle didn't know existed. My hands didn't shake, not anymore. On the drive back, I kept seeing Malik's face when Gloria said, "His daddy is always like this." The way his eyes dropped, like he'd learned a new kind of shame. When I pulled into the driveway, Danielle's car was there, lights off. The house looked calm from the outside. I sat in my car for a moment longer, thumb hovering over my phone, then opened my notes app and started listing dates, names, and every piece of paper I could remember signing. The next morning, I moved through the hospital like I was running a drill, not because I wasn't angry, because anger wastes time, and time was the only thing I didn't have. Between work orders, I pulled my credit reports on my phone, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. I saved PDFs, emailed them to that new account, then printed hard copies in the maintenance office like I was building a case file. Every inquiry got highlighted. Every unfamiliar lender went onto a list. During my lunch break, I sat in my truck and combed through bank activity. Not just balances, logins, devices, locations. The app had a security page I'd never bothered to open before. Now it felt like a crime scene. 2 logins stood out. One from our home Wi-Fi, sure. Another from a device labeled Danielle's iPhone. That one didn't surprise me. What did was the timing. Late nights, early mornings, moments when I was either asleep or on shift. I took screenshots of everything. At home, I pulled a storage bin from the closet and started dumping papers into it. Mortgage statements, insurance notices, old tax returns, repair invoices. Malik walked past the kitchen table and paused. "You doing taxes again?" he asked. "Something like that," I said. He nodded, accepting it, then went back to his room. I hated how used to it he was, me handling problems quietly so he could stay a kid. The next day, I left work early for exactly 45 minutes. No excuse, no story. I drove downtown to the Loop and met a lawyer Nadia recommended, a guy named Stephen Park who didn't waste words. His office smelled like coffee and printer ink. He shook my hand, sat me down, and listened while I laid out what I knew without turning it into a rant. He didn't flinch once. When I finished, he leaned back and tapped his pen. "Your job isn't to prove you don't want to pay," he said. "Your job is to prove you didn't authorize anything. That changes everything." "How?" I asked. "If you argue about fairness, you lose. If you argue about consent and identity, you win." I stared at him. "So what do I do?" "Document. Freeze accounts if needed. Notify the lender in writing. And stop discussing it with the people who benefit from your silence." That last part landed hard. Outside, I walked back to my truck and sat for a minute before turning the key. The city kept moving. People crossed the street with coffee cups like nothing in the world could fall apart. Mine already had. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. A text from an unknown number. "Is this Marcus Reed? Need to confirm your current address." I didn't reply. I saved it. Another one came the day after. "Urgent. Please respond to verify residence." Then, on Thursday night, I stepped outside to take the trash out and noticed a gray sedan parked down the block. Engine running. No headlights. Just sitting there. I watched for a few seconds. The car didn't move. When I went back inside and checked again through the front window, it was gone. Danielle sat on the couch, laughing at something on her phone, like our life wasn't tilting. I walked past her, took my laptop to the kitchen table, and opened a new folder. Evidence. Then I started uploading everything. Danielle waited until I was halfway through loading the dishwasher to start crying. Not loud, not messy, just enough to pull attention. Malik came out of his room because he heard it. He always did. He had that same reflex I did when I was his age. When someone's upset, you go see if you can fix it. He stopped in the doorway. "What's wrong?" he asked. Danielle wiped her face like she didn't want him to notice, which made him notice more. "Nothing, baby," she said. "I'm fine." Malik looked at me, confused. Danielle sighed and sank onto a chair, letting her shoulders drop like she was carrying the world. "It's just, your dad thinks I'm his enemy," she said softly. "And it hurts." My stomach tightened. I kept my hands in the soapy water, staring at the plate I was holding. Malik stepped closer. "Dad?" I set the plate in the rack carefully. "Go back to your room," I told him. Danielle's eyes flashed. "Don't talk to him like that," she said. "He deserves to know why things feel weird." Malik stood there, stuck in the middle, like someone had put an invisible rope around his chest and pulled both ends. "I didn't do anything," he said, voice small. That sentence hit me harder than anything Gloria said. I dried my hands and turned to Danielle. "Leave him out of this." She shook her head, tears falling again, perfectly timed. "You always say that," she whispered. "But you're the one making the house tense. He feels it. He sees how you look at me." Malik's eyes moved between us. He wasn't choosing sides yet, but I could see the weight settling on him. A kid shouldn't have to carry adult stories. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. "Malik, go do your homework." He hesitated, then nodded and walked away slow. Danielle watched him go, then turned back to me like she'd want to point. "See?" she said. "He's scared of you when you get like this." That was the moment my chest went cold. Not angry, cold. Because I'd heard that line before. My ex-wife used to say it when she wanted to make me shut up, when she wanted to keep control. It was the same trick, just a different face. I didn't respond. I picked up the next plate, let Danielle's words hang there without feeding them. My phone rang 10 minutes later. Unknown number. I answered. "This is Marcus." "Mr. Reed, this is Nadia Alvarez from the credit union," she said, voice tight. "I needed to reach you. There's an application linked to that inquiry. It's pending disbursement." I gripped the counter. "Disbursement?" Funds release, she clarified. If we don't receive a dispute or withdrawal within 48 hours, the system moves forward. Danielle's head snapped up. Her eyes narrowed, listening. How much? I asked. Nadia exhaled. It matches the renovation amount you showed me. I looked at Danielle. She held my gaze, then lifted her chin like she had nothing to hide. What do I need to do? I asked. Come in tomorrow morning. Bring your ID. We'll start a formal fraud review and place a hold if possible, Nadia said. But I need you to understand, once this goes, it's harder to pull back. I'll be there, I said. I ended the call and stared at my phone screen. My hands didn't shake. My body felt steady. That was the scary part. The decision was already forming, quiet and solid. Danielle stood and walked over slowly. Who was that? She asked, voice sweet again. Work, I said. She smiled like she didn't believe me. You know, Marcus, she said, leaning against the counter, if you keep acting like this, I can leave. And I can make sure you don't get to see Malik the way you think you will. The words slid out like a warning wrapped in a threat. I didn't flinch. Instead, I looked past her at the hallway where Malik's door was closed, and I pictured him 10 years from now, grown, remembering this kitchen, remembering his dad swallowing everything, remembering his dad paying for everything. I set my phone down, opened the calendar app, and typed in a reminder for the next morning. Evanston, 9 a.m. I got to the credit union early enough that the lobby still smelled like fresh coffee and floor cleaner. Nadia met me at the counter and waved me toward a small office in the back. Thanks for coming in fast, she said. I didn't have a choice, I answered. She shut the door and pulled up my account on her screen. No small talk. No sympathy. Just work. Nadia printed a packet and slid it across the desk. This is what we can share without violating policy, she said. But it's enough to start. I flipped through it slowly, making myself read each line like I read maintenance reports. Patient, precise, no assumptions. There it was, the application timestamp, the email address, the phone number listed, and the IP location. Nadia tapped the map. It was submitted from a network near Oak Park, she said. Not downtown, not your hospital, not your home. My fingers tightened on the paper. Could be a coffee shop, I said. It could, she agreed. But the pattern isn't random, she pointed to another line. The electronic signature. It's been flagged by our system. It looks copied, like someone pasted an image instead of signing. I took a slow breath. My mind didn't race. It lined things up. Oak Park. Gloria's neighborhood. A pasted signature. Then I reached the last page and saw the name that made my stomach drop for a second. Secondary contact. Terrence Bennett. I looked up. Why is he on here? Nadia held my gaze. That's my question too. The room went quiet for a moment. Not awkward, focused. Like both of us knew we'd crossed into something real now. What happens next? I asked. Nadia slid another form toward me. We file a fraud claim. We place a hold on disbursement. We notify the lender and the credit bureaus. But you need to understand, once you do this, someone is going to get a phone call. They'll know you stopped it. I nodded. Let them. Nadia's expression softened for the first time. Mr. Reed, she said, people like this count on you staying quiet because it keeps things clean for them. I almost laughed at that. Clean. Like they weren't dragging my name through the mud already. I signed the form, every letter steady. On the drive back, my phone buzzed twice. Danielle. I didn't answer while driving. When I got home, she was already waiting, standing in the kitchen like she'd been pacing. Where were you? She demanded. I set my keys on the counter. Running errands? She scoffed. Don't play with me, Marcus. Then don't ask questions you already know the answer to, I said. Her face changed. The tears came fast, like a faucet. You're really doing this, she whispered. You're really trying to ruin my family. I leaned back against the counter, arms loose at my sides. Your family ruined themselves, I said. I'm just not signing my name to it. She wiped her cheeks and tried a new voice, softer, persuasive. Okay, fine. Let's say something happened. We can fix it quietly. We don't need lawyers. We don't need banks involved. Quietly, I repeated. Yes, she said quickly. Because if you make it public, you know what happens, right? I didn't respond. Danielle stepped closer. I can file for divorce, she said. And you're not Malik's biological father. The court will look at that. You think you're safe because you've been here? You think you're untouchable? The words were aimed to cut, to scare me back into place. My jaw tightened, but my voice stayed flat. Threatening me won't change what's on paper. She stared, breathing hard. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and turned it away from me too fast. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't need to. Instead, I walked to the dining table, opened my laptop, and copied everything Nadia gave me into my folder. I uploaded the forms, saved the screenshots, and attached Terrence's text messages behind it. Danielle hovered by the doorway. "You're going to regret this," she said. I didn't look up. "Maybe," I answered. Her silence stretched out, waiting for me to beg or soften. When it didn't happen, she walked down the hall, her steps sharp against the floor. Malik came out a few minutes later, rubbing his hands together like he was cold. "We eating?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, closing the laptop. "I'll make something." He nodded and sat at the table while I opened the fridge, already planning what I needed to bring to Gloria's house next. Gloria texted the address like I didn't already know it. "Be here at 7. We're settling this." I showed up alone. Malik stayed home. He didn't need to see adults turn family into a courtroom again. The living room was packed when I walked in. Gloria's sisters were there. A cousin I'd met twice. Even a neighbor, sitting stiff in a folding chair like she'd been invited for entertainment. Terrence stood near the coffee table with that same folder. Danielle sat on the couch, eyes red, hands clasped like she was praying. Gloria didn't offer a seat. "You think you can embarrass us and walk away?" she started. "You're a man. You're supposed to carry weight." Danielle sniffed and shook her head slowly. "He doesn't even care how this is hurting me," she said, loud enough for the room. "He's been cold for weeks." Terrence stepped forward and slid the agreement onto the table. "Sign it," he said. "Then everybody can breathe." I set my bag down beside the couch and pulled out my own stack. Not one paper, a thick folder. I placed it right over his agreement, covering it completely. No speech, no apology, just documents. Gloria frowned like she was looking at trash. "What is that?" I opened the folder and started laying things out, one by one, neat and slow. Bank transfers, years of them. Receipts from the times I paid Danielle's car note. The credit report showing the inquiry. The loan confirmation email sent to Danielle's old address. Then I placed my phone on the table and hit play. Gloria's voice filled the room, sharp and clear. "You are useless. Just let him be the name on it. Then he has to pay." Danielle's head snapped up. "Turn that off," she hissed, reaching for my phone. I moved it out of her reach without touching her, just slid it closer to me. Terrence jumped up like I'd punched him. "You really recording family now?" he yelled. "You sick, man." Gloria stood, face tight, eyes wild. "That's edited," she shouted. "He's twisting everything. He's always been like this." Danielle started crying harder, loud now. "You're trying to destroy us," she sobbed. "My own husband." Terrence leaned over the table, finger in my face. "You think you're smart? You think this makes you a hero? You're nothing but—" I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I reached into my folder and pulled out the letter from Stephen Park, my lawyer. One page, clean language, no emotion. I read one line, only one. "A fraud claim has been filed with the lender and the credit union, and any further attempt to coerce Mr. Reed into signing will be documented as evidence of knowing participation." The room went still. Terrence's mouth hung open. Gloria's hands shook at her sides. Danielle's crying dropped into quiet hiccups, like the air had been pulled out of her chest. I slid the letter forward and stood up. "That's where we are," I said. No one spoke as I picked up my bag, stepped around the coffee table, and walked toward the door while Gloria stared at the papers like they'd turned into something she couldn't control. Danielle came home after midnight. I heard her key in the lock, the quiet click of it turning, like she was trying not to wake Malik. She walked into the living room and froze when she saw me sitting there. I didn't stand up, didn't raise my voice. "You really did all that," she said, barely above a whisper. "I did what I had to," I answered. Her face tightened, and for a second I saw anger before she covered it with exhaustion. "So what now?" she asked. I pointed toward the hallway. "You can sleep in the guest room tonight," I said. "Tomorrow we'll talk logistics." Danielle laughed once, short and bitter. You're kicking me out like I'm nothing. I didn't argue about feelings. I'd spent too many years doing that while the paperwork stacked up behind my back. Go to bed, I said. She stared at me a moment longer, then walked away. At 6 the next morning, I changed the locks. I didn't do it to punish her. I did it because I needed control over my own front door again. The hardware store opened early. I bought 2 deadbolts, installed them, tested them twice. Then I went through the house with a stack of plastic bins. I kept it clean. Clothes in one, shoes in another, toiletries sealed in a bag. Anything sentimental went in its own box, taped shut with care, because I wasn't trying to destroy anything. I was separating. Danielle came out mid-morning, eyes puffy, watching me work. You're serious, she said. Yes, I replied. Malik stayed in his room while I moved his things into the larger bedroom down the hall. He didn't ask why. He just helped carry a lamp and his school books. You want the bed by the window or the wall? I asked. He thought about it. Wall, he said. Feels safer. I nodded and positioned it where he wanted. My phone buzzed while I was tightening a screw on his dresser. Nadia's name lit up the screen. We froze it, she said. Disbursement stopped. The fraud team is opening a case. They'll reach out for a statement. Thank you, I said. You did the right thing, she replied, then paused. Be ready. People get loud when they lose access. She wasn't wrong. By lunch, Stephen Park emailed me confirmation that the lender had been notified, and Terrence's information was now flagged on the application. Another message came right after. Danielle had been served with a document request. Full disclosure. Every email, every text, every record related to the loan. Gloria called twice. I didn't answer. Terrence texted once. You gonna regret this. I saved it and kept moving. The next day, I went to work like nothing had changed. I walked the same hallways, checked the same maintenance logs, spoke to staff with the same steady tone. The difference was small but real. When my phone buzzed, I didn't flinch. I didn't lower my eyes like I was guilty of something. That weekend, I took Malik downtown. We walked the Riverwalk with our hands in our pockets, cold wind pushing against us. He didn't talk much, but he stayed close, matching my pace. After a while, he said quietly, without looking at me, I'm glad we left. I nodded once and kept walking, watching him step ahead by a few inches, like he was testing what freedom felt like.